Welcome, everybody. This is Andrea and that guy. We are changing our day because we feel like we weren't very good help on Monday nights. It's the day after FAAB. There's not a lot to talk about going on. Everybody's already had prepared on Sunday for the week. So welcome, that guy. We are on now Sundays at 3 o'clock going forward. Say hello so I could see your sound working.
Hello, everyone.
Good. Yay for us. All right. Wow. We're on time. We don't have any technical issues, and we are ready to get started. And I know that I'm a baseball girl, and I don't do a lot of football, although I do play fantasy football. It kind of comes with the territory. And I couldn't let the Andrew Luck thing pass us by without at least touching on the situation, because this has really affected people in a lot of different ways. Of course, Indy fans are upset. I absolutely understand why they would. Well, I don't justify why they would boo him yesterday, but I understand. Okay, I'll put it that way. I think that even in baseball, fans are very passionate, and if they see something happening, they have no problem booing. So, starting with the Andrew Luck thing. Yesterday, he was booed off of the field because the news broke that he was going to retire while the Colts were still playing their preseason game against the Bears. And so as he walked off the field yesterday, all the cameras were on him and boos everywhere. And so I guess that's what started the entire Twitter barrage, social media barrage. And of course, he did come out and he gave a press conference and he talked about the reasons that he decided to retire. And there's a lot of different reactions, so I kind of want to get your take. And, of course, you know I have an opinion on everything. So what do you think about this whole ordeal?
You know, honestly, if he's doing it for health reasons, I don't necessarily have an issue with it. But that's really what it comes down to. Is he just walking away because he's actually having health issues? Or is it because he feels it's too hard for him to keep coming back? I mean, I did get affected in a dynasty league by it, but he's not the only quarterback that I own, so I'm not in terrible shape. The only problem is that Andy Dalton went from my number 3 to my number 2, and Matt Ryan is still my number 1, so it could be worse. But, you know, like I said, it's one of those things that I really have always liked Andrew Luck, and I had a buddy just asking me earlier this week on who his keeper should be, and he had him with the penalty of an 8th round pick, and I'm like, no, Andrew Luck is gold in that spot. You need to keep him.
Oh.
Well, turns out that I was wrong. I even sent him a text today. I was like, so I hope you didn't take my advice.
Right. Well, I mean, there's a big difference between giving bad advice and having an outcome that just doesn't fit what you expected it to. I mean, as in the fantasy industry, it's really hard to not, especially anybody playing football that's already drafted Andrew Luck. Like O.J. Simpson, did you see his tweet? I had to retweet it. I mean, that's not...
well, that's how I saw it, is because you retweeted it.
Well, a lot of people feel that way. Fantasy owners, that's the first thing they think of, and it's hard not to think of it from that perspective. However, it should be noted that it's such a small perspective in the reality of life and stuff, and I get the pain. I understand why people would be offended, annoyed, or immediately thinking about what it's going to do to their fantasy team. But I did some, when I started to see the reactions on Twitter, especially when I saw Gottlieb, the Fox radio guy, he used to be a college basketball player. What he said really sparked my attention, as especially like all the reactions, because he says, I got to scroll up to find out exactly what he says. I'm way far down on my notes. He says, retiring because rehabbing is too hard is the most millennial thing ever. So, okay. He just got pummeled
bombarded
on Twitter.
I'm sure.
Yes,
I actually
he did.
saw Dan Le Batard did kind of the same thing. I don't completely remember what the tweet was, but it was basically he was calling him a pussy for doing it, going... and I'm just sitting there. I wanted to reply to him, go, okay, let's see your fat ass go out in a football field and let's see how long you last.
I've seen Gottlieb wasn't the only one with a response like that, and that's another reason why I find this very fascinating. But here's the deal with his body. I mean, he literally played all of he got hurt in 2015, and then he injured it worse that offseason going into 2016 snowboarding. He dealt with this injury in his shoulder the entire 2016 season, and he played hurt the entire time. Some of this blame has to go on the Colts. They are not free from responsibility in this. And he ended up having surgery after the 2016 season, so he missed all of last year, or all of 2017. And then he came back last year. He was the comeback player of the year, right? But now he's dealing with you could call it a high ankle. It's turned into a high ankle sprain, but it was diagnosed as calf soreness. People are talking about this injury with Kevin Durant, relating it to what could happen to Andrew Luck in the sense that he was diagnosed with a calf injury, and then he came out and played in the playoffs, and he literally ruptured his Achilles, and his career is never going to be the same. His body might not ever be the same. But going back to Luck, I think that sparked some, maybe, a little bit of like danger, I don't want to. Well, he said, this is what Luck said. He promised himself in 2016 when he dealt with the injury and played all season that he couldn't practice, and he still was in there playing. He promised himself that if he was ever in that situation again, he would choose himself over the game of football. Okay, I've heard stuff like he's a coward, he's abandoning his team, he's, a loser, he's weak, he's soft, he's this, he's that. I understand, but I don't understand it enough because, this guy, he's obvious. He said he was peeing, and there's blood in his urine. I mean, and the timing of this is also very interesting because there's several things. Number one, the timing is odd and off, and it's like if the Colts knew about this, they would have prepared better. Maybe I don't think the Colts as a team knew about it. I think that Andrew Luck, he says he just started thinking about this a couple weeks ago, and I believe that it comes down to the fact that the coach wanted him. Last night, this coach wanted to make a decision on whether or not Luck was going to be back in time for week 1. And looking at that and saying, okay, now he comes out and retires, and some of the stuff that he said in his press conference about how he had to make a decision, and he was feeling that his ankle was not getting better, and he was not going to put himself in that spot again. He just got married in April, and an article came out just today saying that he found out his wife is pregnant with their first kid, right? The tweet that he put up that says, "Mom, I'm coming home."
I love that, actually.
It's like
I love the way he tweets. It's always funny.
I've never seen a tweet of Andrew Luck in my life. I've never really, cared about it, but I thought that was really his press conference yesterday. If anybody actually listened to it, I don't think that they could possibly walk away from that with anger in their hearts towards this person. This guy, he finishes his career with 2,000 completions, 3,290 attempts, 23,671 yards, 171 touchdowns, and 83 interceptions. He, like I said, he was comeback player of the year. This guy made a decision that we know is absolutely the worst and hardest decision to make in your life. But how can we blame
Especially
a guy?
In your prime.
If you're a family man, which you are, you have a young daughter, Chloe, and your beautiful wife, Rachel. I think that any father that could say to anybody that they feel that Andrew Luck is a loser, a coward, leaving his team, abandoning everybody, they're full of shit. Because a family man comes and puts his family first. He puts his kid first. He's made plenty of money. I mean, yes, he gave up hundreds of millions of dollars, but I will give credit to the Colts. The Colts have done some stupid things with Andrew Luck, as far as I'm concerned, over his career, right? But they have been dealing with this very respectfully. They decided that they weren't going to take away any of the money that they owe him, $24 million. I think that shows high class for the Indianapolis Colts to say, okay, we're not going to,
which that's a first for Jim Irsay. Usually he's a dick about everything.
Yeah, so I don't know that.
The one thing, I do not think Andrew Luck is done.
Really?
I'll be completely honest with that. I really have a feeling what happened was he was demanding a trade to get out of there, because what have the Colts done for him? What have they put around him?
How can he demand a trade when he's not even healthy, and he knew he wasn't healthy going into week 1, and I think go ahead.
But here's my thing. In order in most professional sports for you to be able to get out of your contract, you have to step away from the league for a year. Now he's going to be out of his contract, and he can come back. Who's to say he doesn't go to the Patriots and replace Brady or something?
Well, here's the thing. Whether or not he comes back, and this is just my opinion, I really believe that what this decision came down to was the fact that he was feeling so much pressure to get healthy. And they put the same pressure on him in 2016, and he played the entire season absolutely in horrible pain. And he, like I said, he promised himself he would not do that to himself again, and now it's crunch time. The coach said he was going to, last week he did an interview, he said that he was going to make a decision on Andrew Luck's health for week 1 after last night's game. Well, it just so happens, I mean, the timing is odd, but I do think that the timing has a lot to do with the fact that he knew that he wasn't going to be ready in time for week 1. And even if they wanted him to, even if his doctor said that he was okay, he knew he's not. So if he takes off time and he wants to come back, that's fine. That's fine for him. But I highly doubt that he's leaving just to get out of his contract. I mean, the Colts still do well. Okay, so the Colts also. It's like if they cared that much about his health, okay, they would have got an offensive line that could have protected him, because it's well known fact that the Colts have not had a great offensive line, and part of the reason for all of his injuries is because nobody's there to protect him. I remember it was happening in Chicago with the Bears several years ago. I can't remember the quarterback's name, but it was like,
Jay Cutler.
Do you even blame this guy for not wanting to come back? Because he can't.
Absolutely not.
I mean, so then, but I did, in response to those who say that the Colts should have invested a little more in an offensive line. Okay, but the Colts, before they signed him to an extension, they actually used like 4 of their 8 draft picks in 2016 went to offensive linemen. And then they went out and extended his contract. They were obviously invested in Luck and his future, and they went out and they did that. Whether or not that's working out for them, I think that it's a good point to point out that the Colts did make an attempt, at least in that 2016 draft, to address their line problem.
Yes, and the other thing is maybe actually drafting a running back they could use, so that way he doesn't have to drop back 40, 50 times a game to throw the ball. Getting a defense out there so he's not having to throw the ball once again 40, 50 times a game. There are so many reasons of why I actually put the Colts more at blame for this than I do with Andrew Luck. I love Andrew Luck. I won't knock him for this by any means, because he's one of my favorite players, but I really do believe that a part of this is that he doesn't want to be with the Colts. They refuse to trade him or anything. And
they played him injured for a long time. Over a year, he played literally. Everybody knew that he was injured with that shoulder in 2016. Everybody knew. It wasn't a secret. He only played in 7 games in the entire 2015 season. He was hurt going back to 2015, and also that snowboarding accident, I guess, just enhanced it. But just last week, coach... Who's their coach's name? Is his name Reich?
I believe that's who it is Frank Reich is the one that came in. Okay,
and he says that his injury on his ankle, his calf, his Achilles, whatever, it's a cumulative thing. He said that it's just been continuously getting worse over the years. So it's not just based on one thing. And it isn't now. Now it's turned into a high ankle sprain, which, I mean, Luck said that he... Anyway, let's talk about what I know you're a big football fan, so this is not over your head. Everybody's talking about what the Colts are going to do now with Brissett, the ownership. Of course, Luck, last night, he says all these nice things about Brissett, about how he's a great leader and that he's going to be that he's a rare find and all of these things. And so, of course, the GM, Chris Ballard, he uses Luck's words and says, we're not going to ask Jacoby Brissett to be Andrew Luck. Obviously, Andrew Luck is extremely unique. But Jacoby Brissett is a winning football player, which I don't know how he could possibly say that, because Brissett, he was a starting quarterback 15 times when Luck was injured in 2017. He has 13 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Indianapolis was 4-11 over that span. So he's not a winning football player, okay? And
I agree with you. He was only somewhat of a winning player that one year with the Patriots, and that's because you're with the Patriots. That team is designed to win regardless of who's out on the field.
Right. But so, okay, that's fine. That's a lie. The next thing, he is a very rare leader, right? The word rare came up a lot. He's a rare human being, okay? He's a rare leader. He's this, he's that. The locker room loves this guy. But I think that regardless of your fantasy team, regardless of whether or not you're pissed off or respect Andrew Luck's decision, you think to yourself, especially fantasy owners, you're like, yeah, I don't think Brissett's going to be on making his way to my roster as a replacement. But there's lots of talk about the Colts making a trade with the Eagles for this Nate Sudfeld. What's it? How do you say his name? Anyway, he was the backup. He is the backup to the backup quarterback in Philly. And the Indianapolis Colts their head coach used to be the offensive coordinator for 2 seasons when this guy was in Philly. So the Indianapolis Colts actually tried to offer him a job when he was still on the practice roster, the practice team for Philly. They tried to put him on their 53-man roster, but immediately after that, the Eagles brought him up and put him onto the roster. I don't know how you guys refer to this in football, but that head coach is now, their head coach was the offensive coordinator in Philly. What do you think of that idea? Do you know this kid, Nate Sudfeld? Don't blame me. I can't, Are you with me? I don't hear you.
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
But I always forget that because I set it down when I go to take like a rip off my vape pen or something in case I start coughing or something. So
yeah.
But it's one of those things that I do agree that you see that a lot though when one team goes from somewhere else that they go to try to bring their old players and things like that from practice squads and because it's somebody they believe in. I mean, you actually saw it way back with the Falcons when their assistant GM moved on to become the GM of the Packers. What was the first thing he did? He traded to get Brett Favre.
Right. Yeah, and in baseball it happens all the time. I mean, we were so excited to see Puig go to Cincinnati because his hitting coach was there and all these things. It doesn't always work out that way, But I do think that that's an option. Of course, the rumor mill is going around about, there's Colin Kaepernick. Hey, why don't you invest in Colin Kaepernick? It's like, okay. I don't think
so.
Well,
that one is just a joke because that guy, they can make all these arguments that they want. He is just garbage. He doesn't belong in the NFL.
I agree with you. I mean, he's okay as a quarterback, though, and as a second-string quarterback, basically. Yeah. But so there's my thought on Andrew Luck. I think that if you're out there and you're saying shit like he left his team, he's letting everybody down, he's a coward, he's a piece of shit, he's soft, he's this and that, and then bringing up mental illness. Mental illness has nothing to do with any of this, unless you're saying that he's mentally ill because he's been dealing with injuries and his body is injured and he's urinating blood. Maybe you could say that has affected him mentally. But as far as blaming this on mental health, everybody wants to fight on Twitter about how you don't respect mental health as a disease and this and that. Dude, his fucking body does not work properly. He is having a baby, his very first kid. His wife is pregnant. He deserves to be healthy for his child and his family. And show some respect. This guy has given his entire being to the game of football until he's not even 30 yet. Okay? People comparing him to, these people that retired this early, blah, blah, blah. They're just a bunch of losers. They're comparing him to players that retired because they weren't good enough to continue playing. No, he's good enough. He chose his body and the welfare of his family over your fantasy team and your bullshit fandom. Come on, man. Take a walk in this guy's shoes.
We just actually saw this 4 or 5 years ago. I can't remember his name, but I was literally just reading into it again.
In basketball?
No, in football. There was a linebacker who he was playing for the Niners. He won Rookie of the Year, had over 100 tackles, and he retired because of head trauma issues.
Right. I remember that. I do. I mean, CTE is a real thing. Whether or not the head trauma, that's the last thing that you figure out that you have. I mean, it's the last symptom. So, and it takes years for CTE to start really coming through, and you can't even tell if you have it until you're dead. But you start to act different. You start acting impulsive. You start acting angry. You start acting like you don't care. Most people with CTE end up on drugs before they die. They end up out of money because they gamble it all away. There are definite symptoms, but nothing that you could say he's got serious CTE or whatever. At that point, is it even possible to go back on that. Like once you start showing symptoms of this CTE, you're screwed. When you're peeing blood, your kidneys are not working. There's been plenty of football players that have to lose their spleen and shit because it could kill you.
Well, Andrew Luck did have a lacerated spleen a couple years ago. That was a part of one of his injuries.
I mean,
while they had him come back from playing hurt. So it's one of those things that the Colts have just abused him. And he sat there and took it and took it and took it.
Yep.
He has every right to walk away from them.
Absolutely. He might have just saved his life. And that's the truth. Because you're one hit.
Mel Pal put it out there. Chris Borland. That was the name.
Borland. I don't know anything.
That was the guy I was talking about. He was the rookie of the year and then retired after his rookie season.
Yes. I remember. That was just like a year ago or two.
Oh, no. It was a little longer than that. At least like 4 or 5.
There was a guy in basketball that did the same. I can't remember like all of these instances, but they're few and far between where a player at the high, I mean, literally, Andrew Luck, you could say that he's at the height of his career. And one guy said on Twitter that, screw this guy, he made more money sitting on the bench than he ever did playing games. And I can't see that point of view. I try, but I can't. I'm sorry.
It's not his fault anyway. It's the fact that the Colts never let him get healthy. And I get it. When you play football, and I mean, you've played sports too, the moment you step on the field for the first game, you are no longer 100% healthy the rest of the season. So I get that standpoint. But if you're not playing at least 80, 85%, you shouldn't be out there.
Well, okay. And also, I think that there's a lot of pressure in football. I mean, there was a report that came out about 5 years ago about all of the prescription medication that they're giving, that they have doctors going with them on road trips. I mean, there's a big lawsuit going on about the drugs that the doctors are just dishing out pain pills like they're candy and shit. And when you're you're the replacement quarterback for Peyton Manning, you are the new Peyton Manning, and you need to be healthy because we don't have anybody else to rely on. So you're it, whether you're healthy or not. And he did that, and part of his mistake might be, looking back, I mean, it might be, maybe I did too much, maybe I gave too much, maybe I should have.
He pushed himself too hard.
Yeah, when he should have been.
That's the problem I have with people calling him a coward and everything.
Right.
This guy went out there, hurt, healthy, did not matter, and he tried to play regardless.
Exactly.
And most of the time, he was playing at almost an all-pro level. So why is it an issue that he's deciding to walk away? Like you were saying, he's about to have a kid. He has a wife. He has things he has to look out for. And he has now has himself in a very good position. He doesn't have to live on his dad's money. So why not?
No, he'll be fine, and he's good, and I wish him the best, and I respect him, and I appreciate what he did for the game.
And actually, to bring up your point with the drugs, I remember, I want to say it was the Falcons were being investigated by the DEA because they had a season where they spent over $100,000 in painkillers.
And that was just what they put on the books. It was come to find out. I mean, there's ongoing lawsuits. You can look up on wherever you can find the court documents, but it's pages and pages of like the undercover reporting that they found out, the investigation found out these doctors are on road trips with the teams and they're just handing it out like they're the local drug dealer, get it done and go out there with no pain, like the Pink Floyd. When Pink Floyd, the song about how get out there and play.
Exactly, but that does happen at all levels. I mean, the high school I went to, they're not at a national level of competing or anything, but we were good enough in the state that we were going to the playoffs every year. We were always ranked top 10 in the state. So our trainers were going to do whatever we could to get us out on the field.
Do we blame them? No, we don't blame them. It's a mentality, though, that the NFL tries to act like they care about the players so much, but they really don't care about the players. And if that's not obvious to anybody, I don't know how to convince you of that.
It's all about asses in the seats.
And, like Kurt Schilling comes to mind. In baseball, we see this happening. Fans love the guy that comes through with the bloody ankle, the injury. I mean, it just makes you love that player that much more if you're a fan of that team. And what would you do without him, And if he wouldn't have come out, would you have been angry? I don't know, but you sure as hell love him a lot more when he comes out there hurt and actually saves the day. And every athlete, I don't care what sport you're in, there isn't an athlete on this planet that plays professional sports that would choose to sit on the bench even when injured. They think they're healthy, of course they do. They want to play, of course they do. It's up to the management and the doctors to look out for their best interest. The players should not be in charge. But when you have the management, and I think it happens all the time in football, it's up to them to look out for the players. And I don't think that the Colts really did a great job looking back on it. Whether or not
I completely agree with that. The Colts have always done a terrible job with things like that. And I mean, it goes to show basically since they've lost Peyton Manning, like I said, what have they done to put Andrew Luck in a good spot?
Just that one thing I told you. They spent 4 of their 8 draft picks on offensive line. It didn't work out, obviously.
Which, you know what? At least they did try something
Yes,
once.
I got to make sure that people know that.
How many linemen did they draft for Peyton Manning?
I have no idea.
Just to find guys like Jeff Saturday.
So let's go talking about baseball. Ready? Let's talk about the Players' Weekend. What are these ugly, hideous white and black? I guess the white and black was built. The uniforms are like solid white or solid black. You can't even see the fucking names on the white ones. And so I say, I get that because
you can't
they want
see anything on the white ones. I'm actually watching the Philly Marlins game right now, and
are the black ones any better though? At least you could see the names.
Well, I do actually like the black ones, but I was actually saying this to Rachel yesterday. I want to go buy one of the hats. I don't care whose team it is. I love the hats that they're wearing.
Well, you wanted to talk a little bit about who's the favorite nickname, and since Kevin's here, I will say this, and it's funny, it was just brought up today, that one of the announcers called Shane Justin, or the play-by-play, or somebody, whoever was talking on TV or the radio about the game, called him Justin today, and I didn't even realize I do it. I didn't even know I do it. Well, you know what that
started with, right? There was a tweet from, I want to say, the Indians that they called him Justin Bieber, and he responded to it like, who?
It's hilarious.
So now he's got the jersey that says not Justin, which I love it. That was great.
That's the best Players Weekend, and it's the best nickname ever invented, I think. Probably because I'm guilty of it.
That's why I was actually staying away from it for my pick of who the best one was. Okay. It's kind of corny, but I really liked it. Was Fultonevich. Did you see what his was?
No, what's his?
High voltage.
Oh, good. That's pretty clever.
Yes, I agree. Well,
go ahead.
I was going to say the one that I couldn't believe he didn't do this was Bregman. I didn't see what he has on his jersey, but can you think of what I would assume he should have put for his nickname?
Something with Bauer.
No, actually.
What?
Breggin out.
Nice. That's.
This dude is having a career year. I can't really say he's a breakout player because we've always followed him, but he is having one of the. What is he, second in WAR right now?
He's having an excellent season. He gets a little overshadowed by Clevenger, but he is. I think that since Bauer was traded, I think that the popularity is very quickly growing for him. He's had an excellent season, and he takes. I think that it's not the first time when the Cleveland Indians they actually called him Justin. Makes me feel better because. I didn't even know I was doing it, but I will say I'll give some credit because I was just talking the other day on my show about where the hell is Kyle Tucker and all of the reasons why in the world do they keep going out there with Reddick and Marisnick, dude. The combination of the two has been miserable since in the second half, and they got Kyle Tucker down there hitting 32 bombs and stealing 29 bases, and they're not calling him up because they supposedly have no room for him. I was like, when I saw their nicknames, first I saw Reddick. First, I saw Reddick's nickname, and his nickname is Mr. Irrelevant. And then I saw Marisnick's nickname, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. His name is Big Fudge. I know that goes way back to another... it's a reference to a movie, isn't it? Or a song or something. It's a reference. Big
I really
Fudge.
couldn't tell you. I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember what it's from.
These two are so horrible. They're both irrelevant, and Fudge is like crappy.
They're just fudging up their team.
Yes, and Kyle Tucker's waiting, and he should get a nickname too.
Well,
but
I did show you. I sent you that little video of why they're keeping him down there.
No, because of his swing, right? You talked about his
yes.
swing. Really? That's why they're keeping him down there? Why haven't they made him change it then?
I think that they've tried, and he can't. And that's why I don't understand
why
they
it's working for him.
Traded him.
Why do they have to trade? First of all, why do they have to try to change shit that's working?
Well, it didn't work last year for his little bit of a stint in the majors.
I know, but we gave him only a second.
They don't work.
Well, it's working in the minors. I mean, Goldschmidt has a crazy swing too, but nobody messes around with him. You have
Well,
to.
and I agree with you. And Bellinger, he actually has the same swing like what Tucker does, where he brings that hip out before he actually starts to swing.
Like Lenny was talking to me about it yesterday too. The whole swing thing about how he moves his body separately from his top to and his bottom. Whether or not that plays out, I'm not going to disagree or say that you're not right. Lenny feels the same exact way and mentioned it to me a couple times, even yesterday. But in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, I don't know what's going on in the back of the clubhouse. I don't know everything, but what I do know is that Kyle Tucker has hit 32 homers and 29 stolen bases this season. He is now playing first base along with his outfield spots. He's been in the minor leagues and he was ready to come up a couple years ago. He did come up for a minute, but the stint was not long enough for anybody to say that that's why he can't come back. I mean, what you're not going to trade the guy, so then in my opinion,
with him. I agree with you. If you're not
come
going to
on.
trade him, you need him to come up.
They say they're not going to trade him, but like you said, this could be just a ploy to drive up his trade value, right? But hello, trade deadline's come and gone. The call-ups have come and gone. Like the safe date to call him up has come and gone. Now they say that he's going to come up in September, but what's the fucking point of waiting till September? I don't get it. He will still get to play in the playoffs if he does well. We don't even know. This guy is such a crapshoot when he gets called up. But I just see what the Astros are doing, and I'm like, you have the best pitching in baseball. Literally, you could crush any team in MLB without question if you stop playing Reddick and fucking Marisnik, okay? That's all.
And I agree with you. It's, with the way that Reddick and Marisnik have been playing, you have no choice but to do something with Tucker because he's going to end up coming up and playing better than what they have, even if he's not playing that well. And in Tucker's defense, young guys usually don't do that well in the majors. So maybe it is just me looking for the reason of why he was unsuccessful. And that is usually a good red flag of when you have a swing like that. But there's not a couple things you won't be successful.
I believe that Kyle Tucker was having lots of problems mature-wise. Like, not like he hasn't gone through puberty, but mentally, I think that he felt, this is just my observation, when I saw him in Arizona Fall League, he was horrible. This was 2 years ago, and Lenny was like, he's not going to make it in the majors. He's going to be that fourth kind of outfielder. And I said, just give the guy a break. He's tired. It's November. They already played all season, and now they come to fall ball. They're usually really tired, so I forgive them a little bit if they don't look like they're interested. But he really put off this vibe like he was above this AFL shit and he was ready to be in the major leagues. And he did get called up the next year and he didn't do well. And I think, just my observation, that it could have been with his issues with the fact that he seemed like the type of player that was ready to go up. He didn't believe he needed to work on anything, and he was ready. And he did not want to hear any more direction. It's over for you people down here at fucking the minor leagues, okay? So then last year he whatever he did, then this year he's been doing good. He doesn't get called up. I'm thinking to myself, I wonder what his attitude is like. I really do wonder what he's saying to his coaches, or even if he's hitting 32 bombs. If his coaches are telling him to stop at third and he's stealing home, that's a problem, even if he's safe at home,
I agree. If you're not going to listen to your coaches and things like that just to make yourself look better.
But in his defense, dude, this year, coaches down in the minor leagues are saying that he came to them to say, I want to play this other position, that he shows up to practice early, he stays late, he does extra, he's like all gung-ho about, I'll do whatever I can, that mantra, I'll do whatever I can to help the team win, bullshit, Fine. We got to give him credit for that.
That's actually a really good point to it. I mean, is it a possibility they left him down there to check his attitude and make sure that he becomes more humble?
Of course it's a possibility. I believe that wholeheartedly, that it's not a good idea to send a minor leaguer to the majors with the idea in their head that they don't have anything to work on, because that comes naturally,
Well, and that's one of those things that you could probably blame it on his lower level coaching that sat there and probably told him things like that. You don't need to work on anything. You're the perfect player.
Well, they must have told him.
Thing. You always need to work on something.
He's working on shit all the time. He did not. I never read anything that said that he actually worked on that swing that you guys talk about. But that's a matter of opinion as to whether or not it's a good idea to even bother with that. That's what got him to the majors. So if that's what his talent is, I say hone in on it, make it better, work on that, because that's what you're comfortable doing. And I didn't read anything that like he's trying to change his swing, but you and Lenny can't be the only two that have noticed that.
You know what? It almost seems like there's only a handful of people that actually notice that, and I really wonder how much of that has to do with this computerized scouting system rather than actually putting eyes on somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that. I didn't notice the swing until you sent me the GIF, but of course I see exactly what you're talking about. I don't know for sure whether or not we can even say that that's going to hurt him or help him or what, but I think his attitude and maturity level were definitely going to hinder him getting called up to the majors. That's my opinion. I can't say why the Astros are doing what they're doing, but I fucking don't like it. As a fan, you don't like it. You don't want to see your team losing, dude, because two crappy ass players are out there. They've hit like
Especially
2 home
when you
runs.
have some of the top prospects in your system. Now, granted, Whitley has been terrible this year, but Tucker has not. So why aren't we giving? Well, speaking it from the Astros front office, somebody has to be sitting there going, "Why the hell aren't we giving this guy a chance?"
You're going to pay Reddick $13 million anyways, okay? Whether or not he plays and wrecks the game. Reddick is a great defender, and I'm not trying to dog on him as a person, but come on, man, you need to perform, and the stats are not there. Since the All-Star break, these two combined have hit like 2 homers. They've got maybe 10 ribbies combined. These two are not performing, and Kyle Tucker is waiting. That's all, but I do want to talk about, we decided to move our show to Sundays for a reason. We want to help, and of course we're making our own FAAB bidding today, and we thought by Monday it sucks. I already told you bitches this, so let's move on. Let's talk about some of them to pick up.
Yeah,
perhaps.
because Tucker wasn't even in our notes at all.
Right? Okay, we haven't even touched. Okay, what about Dansby Swanson at shortstop? Okay, he could be available in your league because he has been injured, and I don't know. Is Dansby Swanson owned in a lot of leagues? He's been injured, so if you
really
have a
haven't
spot,
looked into it, but I play a lot more on the ESPN, where because of his name he's going to be owned, and usually you have pretty deep DL spots.
yes, if you have a DL spot in your league, then he's probably owned or whatever, but check the waiver, I think, because Atlanta is a team with lots of talent around him. He has hit 265 with 17 home runs through 100 games, so he could be activated tomorrow. And I say that would be probably the first person I would check if I needed to replace a shortstop, you know? There's a couple of shortstops on the list.
Because otherwise, if you don't have a lot of DL leagues or a lot of DL spots in your league, the only reason why he should be owned is if you're playing an NL only league.
Yeah.
Because then you can't let him go. He has to stay on your bench even if he's hurt.
I didn't see his ownership, but I thought I would throw that in there. I think Atlanta, and another team that is worth noting big time right now is St. Louis with their offense going crazy. Dexter Fowler, I cannot tell you enough about Dexter Fowler right now. If he's not owned, it's unbelievable tragedy going on in your league. He's batting at the top of the Cardinals order. The Cardinals, and he's got 15 ribbies, dude, in the last 2 weeks. And since August 11th, he's got 15. That would probably help you move up a point.
Exactly. As long as he doesn't cool off, especially being off in that leadoff spot, that's where he did the best with the Cubs. So I don't know why they haven't really been anybody has been using him in that spot.
So
it doesn't make much sense.
That's why I'm telling you, I picked him up as many teams as I could. I picked him up everywhere I could. But he's probably not available, but if he is, and if he's sitting on your bench, then God forbid, that's a horrible tragedy, because he's the type of player that you don't pay attention to after he doesn't do what you want him to for a long enough period of time. You just don't even look at what he's doing, and he just sits down on the bench while you got a guy like, Reese Hoskins or somebody. I know they don't play the same position, but you know what I mean. Anyway, talk about Tyler O'Neill. He's coming back.
I actually didn't know that because I haven't really been paying attention to him. But yeah, he's going to be able to give somebody quite a few home runs when he comes back if that's something you're lacking in. And,
St. Louis,
usually,
dude. Yes.
Well, a lot of times you end up needing outfield depth because there's so many outfield positions that you have to play. So there's no such thing as having too many outfielders in fantasy. It's like pitching. Those 2 spots, you can't have enough.
The depth charts would say that Tyler O'Neill would probably have a place in right field for the St. Louis Cardinals, and then you got Dexter Fowler in center field, and Ozuna, who's another great player, was hurt for a while, so he's not getting a lot of love. He probably won't get as much love as he should next year in drafts. But
he's had a lot of shoulder issues going back to Miami, so I can't really blame him on that, because I know at one point they were actually worried it could be end his career if they don't move him to like first base.
Ozuna or Tyler O'Neill? Who are we talking?
Ozuna.
Okay, well, I didn't know about that. Talk about rehab for this guy, Tyler O'Neill. It's going very good. He's down in the minors, rehabbing 2 or 3 games he's had. You know, he hit 31 bombs in 17 and 35 last year. He's only hit 5 at the major league level, but I do think that he could provide something for you because he's on St. Louis, and he is going to crush it if he does make any kind of contact, right?
Now, wasn't he the one that was actually traded to them for Luke Voigt?
I have no idea.
Thinking somebody else. I could have sworn he was a part of that deal, but I could be wrong on that.
I don't think I've put... Let's talk about Lurie Garcia. That was your addition. Lurie Garcia,
yes.
Talk to me.
Well, it's one of those things that... Actually, I think I got the position wrong, because I think it's second in outfield, but still...
He plays middle infield and outfield for sure. I actually combined him in with Dansby Swanson in our notes, because he does play middle infield. Yeah, sorry about that.
Well, he's not a big power guy, but he still has, 7 home runs on the season? He's not going to hurt your average.
Right.
I mean, he's hitting 282. He's on base percentage of 313. So even in on base percentage league, he's going to help you. But stolen base is the key thing. He's already got 15 on the season. We still have a month and a half, or a little over a month to go on the season. So you figure he could still get 5, 6, maybe 7 stolen bases if they let him loose.
He's a White Sox. For some reason, I was thinking that he's on the Cleveland Indians, and I'm looking at the depth charts. I can't find him anywhere, so I didn't hear a word that you just said.
Well, that's why you wouldn't find him. But
right.
No, he's got a clear-cut chance to playing time just for the fact even with all that added depth in there, Adam Engel is just a power guy that they have who usually plays in center. Eloy is obviously going to be playing, so what are they going to do out in right field? That's the main thing.
They also have him listed, too, at a lot of different positions that he could play, like second base, third base, shortstop. This guy can play all over the place, so he is...
Yeah, well, he's the backup basically for Yolmer and Tim Anderson, and you can stick him out in the outfield, too, to give guys a rest. So he's definitely a clear-cut chance to get playing time. He probably is going to end up playing 5 games a week.
He's batted .282 on the season with 15 stolen bases and 7 home runs. And let's look at what he's done recently. He hasn't been... Okay, he doesn't have a great batting average recently. He hasn't been stealing bases.
Well, he's not a good career hitter either. He's like 250s.
Right now, this year, he's hitting .282. So that's pretty good.
He is definitely having a very good season. He's somebody just because of the position eligibility also.
Yes, absolutely. That's a huge...
out.
Right. I agree with that for sure. Who else do I hear? I have somebody's stats here. It looks like they're on the Rangers. Who is this?
I really couldn't tell you. I just noticed that too.
The Rangers. What the hell? I was looking up someone on the Rangers. Let's see who's on the depth charts that I could be talking about.
Well, while you do that,
this is how I get ADD when I'm doing my notes, and I can't.
Oh, is it Nick Solich? Because you have him up there.
Yes, it is. It's Nick Solich. Yep. I was just going to bring him up because opportunity is knocking at his door there in Texas. Yes, it's definitely him, and it's not even close with his his stuff, dude. But we'll move right on to him because he hit 27 home runs down at AAA between the Rays AAA team and the Texas AAA team. He's been traded 2 times in the last 18 months. I don't know if that's a bad sign or what does that mean? Don't you want to read into that some?
A little bit, but a lot of times, because you actually do have it in there, though, and that's a lot of times what I assume, is the fact that they don't have anywhere to be able to play you, so you're worth more to them to trade than to keep on the bench.
Exactly. I agree. And he is capable of stealing some bases. I'm not really counting on it. I think that the Powers are overrated because I just don't think that he's going to hit like that. He's not going to be Tyler O'Neill, I don't think. But he could be okay. So far, let's look at the stats that I put in here, pasted somewhere. Okay? He's playing now Leroy. 17 at-bats, 4 runs, a home run, but he's batting .294, so it looks like which is exactly what they were saying about him, that he has decent plate discipline. that he should have decent plate discipline. So if you're looking, I mean, right now in roto leagues, I don't think anybody's can hurt you in batting. Well, anybody could hurt you in batting average. I will totally take that back. What I was just going to say.
It's harder to find batting average on the waivers than anything else, actually.
But when you finish the season and you see the differences in batting average between you and the next guy above and below you, it is so tiny that even
exactly, that even just one hitter hitting in 280s and above can really help bring you over that.
Right. So don't just be like, I got to get Tyler O'Neill because he's going to hit me 30. But look, it's all right now is all about moving up in points and categories. It should be that way all year, but right now is the most important time of the year that you know where you can gain points. You also don't forget to look
get a lot of people sleeping.
I think people are always looking at like how they could get in how many points do I need to move up, or how many stolen bases do I need to move a point up, and whatever. But you also have to look at the people behind you and keep in mind that if they have one less stolen base than you, then you better not give up getting stolen bases just because the guy above you has like 15 more stolen bases than you. You got to make sure that you don't let the guy behind you and completely give up on stolen bases, because while you're trying to move up, you forget about this fact that you can actually move down too.
Exactly. Well, and honestly, the one thing that I'm noticing from Solik, even though it's a different position, he kind of reminds me a lot of Brian Reynolds in Pittsburgh.
Why? Well, Brian Reynolds, I love. Don't you love him?
He's so do I. Trust me, I went around and picked him up in every league that I possibly could. But it's the fact that he hit 300 at every level, and he's not a big power guy. He's not a big stolen base guy. It's just that plate discipline.
I love
and the other numbers have come with it.
So the set it and forget it guy, the guy that's just like gets on base and gets hits and doesn't really do anything crazy good, but you love him, like
exactly.
Eric Hosmer.
Well, and that was somebody else I added to the list that we can hit on this next when we're done with Solik.
Go ahead, we're done.
Okay. Josh Van Meter.
Yes.
I wonder how many of the people in the chat room have actually even heard of him.
I see him here and there on, I see his name popping up.
Well, he's only played, I got it there, 64
games, yep.
So
what does he do, everything?
Yes, across 162 plate appearances, he has 41 hits, 10 doubles, 4 home runs, 20 runs, 15 RBI, 5 stolen bases,
Yay!
But he's been caught 3 times, and his slash is 287, 370, 441.
Okay, is he playing every day?
Depending on the website you play on, he's eligible at first, second, third, and outfield.
Okay, and according to RotoWire, they have him on as their starting second baseman. He also backs up Eugenio Suarez at third. He plays first. I'm looking for more for him. He plays shortstop. He's on the left field list. He's on everywhere. He's on the right field list. He literally plays everywhere but catcher and center field.
And, well, with fantasy, who cares? How many leagues do you have that say you have to have a left, center, and right? It's just outfield.
Well, let me look and see how many times he's played at each position in the majors. I could do that really quick with this RotoWire tool.
I know ESPN, he's not eligible for first base yet, but you still get second, third, and outfield. You're still getting corner, middle, and the outfield slot out of him.
So in the major leagues, he's played 9 times at first base, 13 times at second, 6 times at third base. So that's good. The 6 times at third base he should qualify too in most leagues, and 27 in the outfield. So we should just talk about where he qualifies, and those are all the places that he should qualify. Everywhere except for catcher.
Yeah, and it's one of those things.
He can't qualify at shortstop too.
Well, and, actually, if he qualified at shortstop, it would just raise his value even more. He probably would be getting noticed quite a bit more then.
You don't even need a shortstop, because there's so many shortstops available that Josh Van Meter is not even on your radar if you're a shortstop-looking fool. You know what I mean? If you're looking for one.
That's true. But then again, those guys that keep losing somebody like Correa and things like that are looking for shortstop.
That's true. Hey, Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker.
What about Kyle Tucker?
He could play.
Oh, yeah.
Put him at shortstop. Whatever, just get his bat in the lineup. That's what it comes down to. So there's a closer named Giovanni Gallegos in St. Louis. Well, he's not a closer, but he should be the closer. I think that rostering a guy like a bullpen guy at this point in the season, this depends on, again, where you are sitting in the standings, because I believe that about 85% of the time it's better to roster a guy with good strikeout ratios and low walk ratios, and then rostering a guy that's a mediocre at best starting pitcher.
Exactly, because I mean, at least with somebody that you're going to put out of the pen, you can almost just leave them out there and take, for the most part, good with the occasional bad compared to a starting pitcher where you're trying to stream him, pick and choose his starts, and you may pick wrong, and it can blow you up.
This guy. When I read his name in an article at The Athletic, I went and looked at his stats, and I kind of thought about this and the fact that he's not a closer. The St. Louis Cardinals actually are fine in the closer department. That's a matter of opinion, but it's not a necessity, and it's not like something that they need to do right this minute. So I thought, is that even? But he's only pitched 60 innings this year. He pitched only 11 innings last year, but he's got a 1.95 ERA. He's got 13 holds, so if anybody plays in a holds league, I guarantee this guy has been long gone. But he strikes out a lot of batters, and he doesn't hardly walk anybody. And I agree with the fact that it's wise to put him on your radar at least.
So Mel Pell was just asking what we think of DJ Stewart.
What do you think? I don't really have an opinion on him.
He's a recent call-up for the Orioles, although he did play a little bit last year with them, I believe, also.
Is he going to get playing time every day? Yeah. Is he going to play every day? So I could see that he played the 14th and the 15th.
With the Orioles, very possible.
Oh,
just because, other than Mancini, who do they really have?
Okay, look what he's doing. He gets everyday plate appearances. He's playing every day.
Well, so far he's not doing that well. This is for 2 seasons, 33 games. He's got 105 plate appearances, 10 runs, 22 hits, 6 doubles, 3 home runs, 12 RBI, 3 stolen, 2 caught. Oh, and his ratio is terrible: 8 walks to 27 strikeouts. Okay,
but down in the minor leagues this year, he's played at AA and AAA. He had his batting average was very high. It was 291 at AAA and 308 at AA. He also had 33 extra base hits, 12 home runs, and 5 stolen bases.
Double A I have to rule out because it was only 4 games.
Okay, so let's rule out Double A. Okay, fine. Let's go back and say 12 home runs still. 12 home runs, 5 stolen bases at Triple A with a 291 batting average. So now he's up in the majors, and he's had 53 at-bats, and he has 12 hits. He's hitting 226, and he's just from looking at this, I could say that he falls into a category of a rookie is a rookie right now. I would have to look deeper into it to get any further idea on it.
I don't really have too much of an answer on him because I haven't really been looking at him either. But
I'm glad that you asked.
Just the stats from looking at him in AAA, he's probably worth a stab, and hoping that you can get something out of him. Especially when most people really don't have an idea who he is, and
I'm not taking a stab, dude, right now. I'm not taking a stab at anybody. If they're hitting like this, he is not on my team. No, he can't be on your team right now. He's not going to help you win. Until you start seeing him doing something that is going to help you win and not lose, that, to me, is a bad idea, right? Kind of like this next guy we're going to talk about, Alex Wood. Okay? Alex Wood. He's got a 6.07 ERA on the season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here I am reading the Athletic, and I just thought that I would share this tidbit with you, that he has thrown 2 strikes on the first 3 pitches 71% of the time. The first 3 pitches, 2 of them are strikes. 70% of the time. Like, they didn't just go over the plate.
That's actually kind of insane.
Yeah, they didn't just go over the plate. They actually were called strikes. So whether they swung or whatever it was, this guy got a strike on him. That's pretty crazy. That's 71.6% of the time that the first 3 pitches he throws are strikes. How in the hell does he have a 6.07 ERA and when he gets ahead of batters every time?
Well, because is he necessarily getting ahead of them, or are people jumping out early on him because they all know that?
It doesn't matter. The first 2 pitches are strikes for this guy. What the hell is he doing after that? When you go up to basically every time a batter walks up to the plate, 70% of the time that the batter walks up to the plate, he's got 2 strikes on him.
Yeah,
Bam.
you're going to start him out 0-2, 1-2, something like that. I mean, it's definitely somebody who should be pitching better.
Holy shit, this guy. Okay? He's got a 21 to 4 strikeout to walk ratio. Okay? 21 strikeouts, 4 walks. Great. He has a 3.44 FIP. So, okay. That, I guess we'll say that just only just makes him average. Can you imagine what it would be like if Max Scherzer walked out and 70% of the batters just started out 0-2?
Yeah,
or Bauer, dude.
Him then. I mean, you're just screwed if you deal with somebody like that. Well, there's a lot of guys you could say that to, like say Verlander.
Everybody,
too.
Yeah. I mean, shit.
I mean, basically any pitcher, if they could go out there and start doing, your first 3 pitches are 71% strike, how are you not having everybody would have an ERA under 3, I feel.
Okay, maybe I'm reading this wrong. Maybe I just realized maybe I see this wrong. It says he's thrown 2 strikes on the first 3 pitches. Does that mean for sure that they actually got a strike called on them, or maybe not? Maybe he's just putting the ball in the strike zone. I think I might have read it and took it wrong, but it was still funny thought. You know what I mean? Like, it's a funny thought thinking that this guy has to be this sucky that he's going to go up there and every batter has like a 0-2 right off the bat. He's got a 6.07 ERA. I think
you know
hilarious.
what? Actually, back to DJ Stewart, it doesn't hurt Malpel because he said I have him in my AL only. Have another week to activate him under the dumb rules of this league. So he's probably not even on his roster. He's probably like a taxi squad player, which is
I didn't know that they had taxis.
You have. Well, that's just what I'm calling it.
It really is that, I think. It's like you gotta call this guy up so he doesn't get taken in the Rule 5 draft or some shit. It's kind of like that, right?
So it
I would call him
something
up
like that, or maybe that you have to drop him to waivers in this case since we're so late into the season. But it makes sense to sit on him in that case because he's not going to hurt you.
For sure, this guy did steal bases and he hit home runs and he did the fantasy things that we like, and I don't think that you should let him go by any means. That's for sure. What about let's talk about 2-start pitchers. You ready?
Yep.
Andrew Haney, LA. Is he owned everywhere on every team? Look I have this handy Fantasy
in
Pros
my
app.
league, he is owned in every team.
I'm in Chrome right now, and I can't get over this app that I use in Fantasy Pros. I just click on the little app icon on the top over my browser, and then I choose MLB, and every person on the list on our notes that is in my leagues, it shows up, and I just click on that. It tells me where all these players are owned, and I'm about to put it in action right now, but who knows if I even... Anyway, that's a great... I wish I knew how much he was owned, but Andrew Haney, he needs to be owned, I think, in every league. He's healthy right now. He is definitely not a season-long investment. Maybe he will be. I can't say that he isn't ever going to be, but he hasn't been. But he struck out 14 Texas Rangers last week, and he does keep runners off the base paths. He's also going to face the Rangers again this week, and then he faces Boston too, but don't even worry about them because they pretty much just suck.
Well, Kevin said on CBS he is owned 75%, so
okay,
it should be closer to 100, but that's at least a pretty good start to it.
What about Adam Plutko? Is he find out what he's
Plutko is not owned that well at all. He's probably about 20%, I want to say, because I was actually able to pick him up today in my Dynasty League.
He is tall. I saw him when we went to Cleveland, and he goes to Tampa Bay and Detroit. Tampa Bay got crushed the other day by Baltimore. I want to say it was Baltimore, but they lost in miserable fashion the other day. I don't know how dangerous they are. They come out of nowhere. They're not a bad team, but Detroit, and also Adam Plutko, over his last 6 games started in 35 innings, he has a 3.53 ERA, which is totally rosterable, right? It's Cleveland offense is turned on now, I think, even without Fran Mill doing shit.
Well, and not even just that, for the fact that they just got rid of Bauer, they have no choice but to actually start really using this guy.
He pitches deep into
Plutko
games.
On CBS is 36%. Kevin keeps punching them in for us.
If you look at his innings pitched, 35 innings and 6 starts, you could say to yourself that he goes at least 5 innings every game. So that right there in DFS especially, but 2 starts with him this week against Detroit and Tampa Bay, I would definitely put him on. And also another one, Brad Keller, Kansas City. We talked about Brad Keller, or we talked about the Royals pitching, starting pitching, when we talked about Mike Montgomery last week. And I don't know if we touched on Brad Keller, but we touched on another Kansas City Royals pitcher right now. But Brad Keller has been very great, okay? 59 innings, 2.75 ERA. He's not walking hitters.
Well, he's
like
their ace of their staff. Keller. I
Okay.
mean, without a doubt. He's probably owned well over 70% in most leagues, so
Okay,
he'd be
so
a
he's
hard
owned.
one to find.
All
But,
right, moving on.
I mean, if you do own him, you need to be starting him, especially. I mean, Oakland's a bit of a tougher matchup, but against Baltimore, you have to play.
I owned Keller. I picked him up when he was having a couple good starts, and he started acting like an ass. Okay, he started. I dropped him
on CBS for him.
Well, if he's on your team, chances are good that he's definitely sitting on the bench because he was being a dick for a while, and I did drop him, so I thought maybe he's maybe.
You know what though? I didn't realize that you had this in the notes. Both starts are at home. I'm starting him for both.
Versus Oakland and Baltimore.
Yes. Well, Baltimore, I don't care whether he's at Camden or not. He's starting against that. But Oakland, I mean, granted, both parks are not the most hitter-friendly, but if he's going to be at home for it, I have to play him against Oakland as well.
I think that Chris Davis with a K, dude, is just, you want to talk about something bullshitty. This guy has been playing crappy all year. He can't hit a home run. He can't. He can't hit a home run. Don't you think that there's something wrong with a guy that can't hit a home run who's been hitting home runs, 40 of them every year for the last however many years?
Well,
why isn't he?
Hurt.
Well, why isn't he getting it fixed? Yes, that's the only conclusion that one could come to.
But here's my question: is he hitting 247?
No, dude, he's not even close. He's hitting like 200 if we're lucky.
He's somebody that I've never really been interested in owning, even besides that power. But
you know what? I keep drafting him in DFS because his price is so low, and I'm so tempted to be like, if anybody's going to hit a home run out of the blue, it's definitely. I mean, what are the chances of him hitting a home run or some other fool that's like $2,200? His price is like ridiculously low, so I think that's my problem, and that's why I'm extra annoyed at him, and I'm extra annoyed.
We keep getting nice little tidbits from Kevin here because he said he increased it. Talking about Keller, he increased his slider usage, which is his best pitch. So he's been much better since.
Okay, well, he's not walking batters, too, like he was. So that's definitely a positive. I love the fact that the Royals pitching. I like Mike Montgomery, too. He's pitching at home 2 games against Baltimore and Oakland, too. I know he's a bit risky, kind of like Keller. They're both risky. But
I don't think Keller is as much of a risk as Montgomery, though.
Why? Because he's using his slider more? I don't know, man.
I just like Keller more. At Montgomery, he has a much longer track record of not being able to pitch that well. And I don't think that I would be willing to stream him just because of the fact that I know what he does.
So I have to look at him real quick while we're talking about him because I've been liking him. I couldn't believe that people were picking up that pitcher in Washington. What's his name? Joe Ross. Is that his name? Joe Ross?
Yes, you were talking about that last week.
Because he had crazy ratios and nobody was talking about Montgomery. And I really did like what I saw about Mike Montgomery. And I am now looking at his game log because his last outing, because I was saying that he hardly walked anybody. He had a string of a bunch of starts where he was not walking any more than one batter.
Well, it was 2 starts for it.
Okay, 2 starts. The last 2 starts, he's walked 5 batters in the last 11 innings, and he's only struck out 6. So he has not been that great, and I didn't like that last outing, but I still do like the fact that he goes 5 innings. The last 5 starts, he's gone at least 5 innings. That's positive. The fact that he wasn't walking batters, I don't know what he's going to do moving forward, but he is walking batters now, and I don't like it. So there is some risk, but I do love the fact that he's pitching at home. Let me check his home and away. Oh, he's much better at home, He's got a 7.44 ERA on the road and a 2.20 at home. See, I say I would definitely roster him, but you say he's too much risk.
I'm too scared of him. And, that's just my thoughts of it. Obviously, it's your team. Do what you want, but
Right, totally.
I
That's
wouldn't be
that's
doing it with Montgomery.
okay. So Michael Pineda, he's probably owned too. Let's just skip him. Is
Well,
Kikuchi
he's
still
probably owned,
owned?
but he's got great matchups this week.
Yes, you got to pitch Michael Pineda for sure. He gets to go to Chicago White Sox and then he goes to Detroit. Not to dog on the White Sox, but we do live in reality, right?
I agree. And, I just saw a stat that today, I want to say, is the first time since April that they had Moncada, Anderson, Abreu, and there was somebody else.
Oh, Moncada's back?
Yes,
I didn't
he
even
just
know.
came back.
Okay,
But
well, that's
that's
good
the
news.
first time they've had all four in their lineup since like April.
Great for them. And I do think that there are some tools in that lineup that people need to be aware of, and they shouldn't say, like, oh, it's just the White Sox, because they actually do have some hitters, even though Yoan Moncada isn't really what he presented himself to be this year, because he's still striking out like 35% of the time.
Exactly. It's one of those things. If he can't learn how to cut down on those strikeouts,
It's going to
what are you gonna
affect him,
do?
dude. It's going to catch up with him, right?
Exactly.
What about Kikuchi,
He's one of those
dude?
guys I won't touch next year in drafts just because of that. He's going to go too high, and you're probably going to be able to get him off waiver wires later.
Is Kikuchi owned, especially since he just had a complete game shutout? But maybe I know he's been miserable all season. Really, I've seen him on the waiver. I guess he's probably picked up though. Yeah.
Very possible. I know in one of my keeper leagues I had gone through, I saw he was dropped, picked him up, and streamed him for a while, and I've dropped him since. So
Okay, so this is
I
one
would
of these
assume that
guys.
he is owned by now again.
He's probably been flipped around like 5 or 8 times, right, this season. But here's
I
the
wouldn't
thing:
be shocked because he's so streaky.
I bring him up because 2 outings ago I took him in all my DFS, or not all of them, but I took him in a couple of DFS. And then he was absolutely horrible. He was just made me just dislike him that much more, right? And then he throws a complete game shutout in Toronto. I'm thinking, okay, timing is everything here. He's got 2 starts this week. I didn't even write down where they are, but I have them on the list, so it must be something good.
I didn't see what it was for
Check
him.
out Kikuchi. See if he's on your bench or if he is on the waiver. I think you should take a look at who he faces, and we're gonna move on though. Tanner Roark. What are the chances that he's available?
Tanner Roark, it's kind of hard to say. I mean, I
know.
would assume he isn't since the trade because of how good he's been.
Yes,
but
he's been great since he got
how
to
many
Oakland.
leagues at this point have people that aren't paying attention because they're so focused on football now?
Look for Tanner Roark too, because he has a 2.63 ERA in 4 games since he got traded to Oakland, and freaking Homer Bailey too is doing that shit. That's why Oakland is okay right now without Chris Davis, the punk who should be on the injured list, getting healed up. Okay, for next year. He sucks.
Yeah, well, the one start scares me going against the Yankees, but the other one going against KC, I have to play him.
Both at home. Does that matter? I'm not even. The Yankees
With
are.
the Yankees, I don't think it matters just because they make any park look like a bandbox.
We're gonna play at Kansas City though, right?
He's 58%.
No, I mean at home. Isn't he at home facing the Yankees at home? Tanner Roark.
Not 100% on that.
That would matter to me. Okay, I would say if he's going to.
That's the thing, though, is that even if he's in Oakland, I know the Yankees can just crush it out at any park. So he scares me with them.
Okay, totally respect that. I don't see any reason to disagree with you on that one. We did put Martin Perez on the list, but he's actually going to he pitching today, but I still wanted you to bring him up because he's only owned in like 30% of leagues, and just because he doesn't have 2 starts this week, he's facing the Tigers today, and he faces them again at the second half of the week.
Well, actually, he's pitching very well today, so yeah, anybody who did daily, they're loving it right now because I saw he had a 5-0 lead. Actually, 6 innings, 5 hits. Oh, no. Yeah, 6 innings, 5 hits for him and 2 earned.
Sweet. So I'm glad you put him on the list.
Having a very good start out going right now.
He's going to be picked up today if you do not.
Edwin Jackson later on the week.
What do you think of Edwin Jackson? He's been pretty good, dude. I have to say, he's been pretty good. I'll give him that.
So far, but I don't know how much I would trust him because didn't the White Sox already drop him earlier this year?
Dude, you can only the only place you could trust Edwin Jackson is in a DFS lineup in a freaking tournament that's like thousands of people. because there's a chance that he could pitch well, and that could win
Oh,
you the
yes.
tournament.
Well, I'm pretty sure that it was Edwin back when he was with the Diamondbacks. He pitched like a no-hitter with probably like 7 or 8 walks, and he had almost 150 pitches. I mean, it was just ridiculous.
So check this out. This is a story. I actually got him, and I got Aaron Nola in a trade. One guy wanted to, he wanted to keep. I was trading away Giancarlo Stanton because I needed. Let's see. I traded away Stanton, and I got Aaron Nola back. I traded away Kluber, and I got Aaron Nola and Stanton back, okay? I traded Kluber away, I got back Nola and Stanton. And that nearly won me the league. But at the time, he didn't like the fact that he was going to have to give up Edwin Jackson, and I didn't really want to take Edwin Jackson. But I said, and Nola was just a brand new little baby in the major leagues, and I said I would take Aaron Nola, and he said, okay, you can have the deal. And I couldn't believe that he was going to choose Edwin Jackson over Nola because there was so much potential in this young pitcher I just knew, who's not having a great season, but definitely turned it around from what he was doing at the beginning of the year. That was very disappointing what I saw in him. You're on mute again, I bet. I know you like to put it on mute and then you can't
You're right,
remember.
I was. But, yep, I was. You were right. But, Kevin just put out there that Roark pitched on Thursday, so he only has one start this week.
Oh, maybe he was just on my pick. Okay, good call on that one. So neither Tanner Roark or does Kikuchi even have two starts? Kikuchi might not too.
But his one start is against Kansas City, so it's at least a good one.
Wait, well, Kansas City too. I like him. I want to like Kansas City. I don't know. Maybe that's the thing, but. You have a lot of...
speaking of Fran Mill, he just teed off.
He teed off. Does that mean he hit one out of the park? Please.
Yep, 31st of the year.
Because sometimes when you tee off...
Wow, KC is winning 8-4 right now.
I love it. Who are they beating right now? I love it. The Indians. They're just beating up on the Indians. The Kansas City Royals. See? There you go. I like them. I think they're a fun young team. But you have some other suggestions, but I want to go through real quick the team situations, okay? The situation. Like Tampa Bay, they get to face, the Tampa Bay Rays have to face Verlander, Cole, Greinke, Clevenger, and Justin Bieber. I said Justin. That's on purpose, but I know it's stupid. Anyway, I don't want people to think that I... Anyway, that's not good for the Tampa Bay Rays, right? You should probably bench Travis d'Arnaud because he has not been hitting lately anyways, I don't think. And Tommy Pham. They hit lefties, but none of those pitchers are lefties. So they get to face the toughest pitchers. And other Tampa Bay Rays, too, that you might want to consider benching if you have to decide between who to bench. The Padres face 6 right-handed pitchers and Madison Bumgarner. So... you could probably bench Renfroe this week because even though he was excellent before, I don't think it's... If you have someone else to put in, I could bench some Padres. They face the Dodgers at home for 3, and then they go to San Francisco for 4 more games. Arizona, they get the same 2 teams. They get to face the Dodgers and the Giants. But they start the week at San Francisco and finish it against the Dodgers. The Dodgers are... You never want to play the Dodgers right now, but they're not... It's not like... facing Verlander, Cole, Greinke, Clevenger, and Bieber, dude.
I don't think you ever want to face the Dodgers, whether it's postseason or regular season.
The Seattle Mariners get to face 5 lefties. Is that good or not? Depends on who it is. Vogelbach can't hit lefties. Omar Narvaez is losing job to Tom Murphy lately anyway, so I would say you could possibly even replace Omar with Tom Murphy at this point of the season because he's not going to be playing a lot this week.
No, and that's the thing is you might actually see Navarez play over at first and them sit Vogelbach a couple of times since they're playing so many lefties.
So, yeah, when the catcher's hitting better than you against lefties and he can't hit lefties too, then it's not a good sign for Vogelbach, okay? But Kyle Seager can hit lefties.
I'm pretty sure Navarez does actually bat righty instead of Vogelbach who hits lefties, so that's why I'm saying you could see that happen.
Okay, well, Tom Murphy, regardless, Omar Narvaez is droppable at this point. To me.
Agree. No, I agree with you on that.
Kyle Seager, though, has been hot as shit lately. He should be in your active roster. Colorado gets to play all 7 games at home, dude. 5 pitching right-handers. 5 right-handed pitchers. 1 versus Atlanta, 2 versus Boston, and 4 versus Pittsburgh, all at home. And that would be good for, like, Blackman and anybody else that's going there, like Atlanta, Boston. Yeah.
I was going to say the first 3, they scare me, but obviously, since it's not last year, you can't trust any Colorado pitcher.
No, you can't trust any.
Was the only pitcher you could ever trust, and it was actually making us question that whole Colorado theory, and then all of a sudden it comes out this year, oh, never mind, nobody can pitch there.
Dude, Marquez was supposed to be good, too. I was really trying to figure out what the hell happened to these 2 pitchers in Colorado that I thought were going to be good.
I can only think of that, that high altitude effect. Because I don't feel Freeland is this bad of a pitcher.
They live there. They don't feel the high altitude.
Freeland came up through high school and everything pitching in Colorado.
Yeah, and they train, they raise their pitchers in the minor leagues to pitch there. And I think they've been quite successful, but at times. But, I mean, last year we saw even John Gray, I think, is out for the season. But it was I wanted to really be interested in what John Gray was going to do once he left Colorado, because he, in my opinion, had so much talent. Was he going to become this great pitcher once he got away from Colorado? And with Kyle Freeland and Marquez, too, both of them were overdrafted this year. But Marquez actually had... I looked at his history. I thought, well, maybe he's going to come back in the second half, because last year he pitched better in the second half. The year before that he pitched better in the second half, but he's just not, I don't think he's doing it. I haven't really watched him, but I have to say.
He's the Paul Goldschmidt of pitchers, huh?
I was hoping that he would be for anybody that owned him, but...
Well, and also other big news, and I can't think of, I'm sure there's somebody from Cleveland to pick up. Ramirez is probably done for the season.
Yes, he hit the DL today. So let's talk about who...
And he has surgery tomorrow.
What's, well, good. At least, other teams need to learn from this, like Oakland or whatever's going on with Chris Davis. Does he need surgery or something? What's going on with him? It's just, as a fan, you get annoyed at that, and I think that just being open...
Mel Pal did put out there he thinks he has a bad hip.
Well, then why isn't he getting surgery or resting it or whatever, dude? It was like when Cespedes kept going out there in a boot and stuff playing. You can't
expect these guys to be the same player they are when they're that badly hurt.
Just let them get better. Whatever it is, the 100% of the attention should be focused on getting better, whether it takes a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is. If it's not getting better, it's getting worse.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that Cespedes is a clear example of it, of why you shouldn't play somebody while they're hurt, because how much more did it hurt the Mets?
Chris Davis is sitting out today. He's getting a maintenance day. Yeah, well, every day should be a maintenance day.
He needs to get a lot more.
Literally, this guy, since the All-Star break, has batted 167 and striking out 30% of the time. I'm sorry, dude, I'm a big believer in the fact that you don't just stop hitting like this. Something's wrong, and if he has a bad hip, then he needs to be out. But when they refer to it as a maintenance day, it's like, are you just totally ignorant about what's going on around you? This guy is obviously hurt.
Yeah, and that's one of those things. Usually, I would say Billy Beane is pretty good about making these kinds of moves to say, hey, you're hurt, and get the hell out of here.
Dude.
Go sit.
It's maddening, okay? It's maddening that they're not. And as a fan, an Oakland fan, a fan of Chris Davis, it makes you even that much more annoyed. But, okay, so 33 games, he's playing all the time. Since the All-Star break, he should be sitting. I don't know what they're doing, but did you see Josh Vegley's, he's sitting out today, too. Maybe they didn't want people to see his name on his player's jersey. It says
Why would he have?
It's player to be named later. This guy never got over the fact that he is not... Okay, he never got over the fact that he was a player to be named later in a trade between... It was Marcus Semien and Jeff Samardzija. And a player to be named later or something like that. He was part of the Jeff Samardzija Marcus Semien trade, and he did not like the fact that he is the player to be named later. He didn't like it, and he's not...
You know what? If he doesn't like it, maybe he should start playing like Trey Turner, who's another player to be named later.
That's why I feel like that should be the one player's name that I do think it should be something different. Because it just is like, quit sulking in that, dude. Who cares if
I
you were a player to be
completely agree.
named later? There's lots of players to be named later. Theo Epstein was a player to be named later, dude. He got traded to the Cubbies, and he was the player to be named later. I'm not joking around with that. Maybe it doesn't even sound right, but
Well,
that's
except
what I
for he
believe
wasn't
for
a
all
player, he was a front office guy.
these. I know, but he was the part of the trade
Yep.
that
Well, yeah, but we all knew it was going to be him.
we did.
It was just talked about the whole year how Theo was going to end up with the Cubs.
Well, I didn't like
Maybe
it
it's
as a
'cause
Red
I'm from
Sox fan.
Chicago,
Yeah, maybe
but
because
I mean,
you hear different
that's
things.
all I could hear.
Maybe I wasn't listening to the same stuff as you because I'm listening with Red Sox fan ears, only. Just like annoyed that I was actually I couldn't believe that Theo left like that, and then Francona went right after him. But let's not digress here. I will say that who did I just see? Daniel Vogelbach is sitting tonight. So we just talked about how much he doesn't hit lefties, and the fact that he's being replaced at first base by a freaking catcher who also doesn't really hit lefties, but he does better than this guy. He should not be in your roster right now, active. I know he's been a rookie love story this season and fest, but he can't be active this week, especially.
Yeah, he's got to be on your bench.
Yes. Okay. We also Kiermaier was removed today for crashing into the wall. Tampa Bay
When
is
doesn't
falling
he
apart.
crash into the wall, though?
Tampa Bay is it seems like they're just falling apart at the seams right now. It's horrible for them.
Well, they are about to get Glasnow back.
Okay, fine, but when they get beaten up by the Baltimore Orioles to the tune of like 14-0 or something like that, it's pretty embarrassing. Pretty bad.
Completely agree with you on that.
So look at Clay Buchholz. Now there was one guy that was going to maybe pitch 2 times, but Clay Buchholz is getting the nod. Is this for today, right? Is he pitching right now against the Mariners? Yes. So because he's pitching today, then the 2-start pitcher is still going to get 2 starts this week. Let me take a look at this projected pitching calendar over here. I really loved RotoWire because it tells me everything I need to know. That's for real. I just have to figure out where to find it all. Projected starters. This is what we want. And Clay Buchholz, what do you think of Clay Buchholz? He can be a real fantasy little favorite because people love the fact that he has been pitching better since he came. For the last couple years, Buchholz,
Since he won the Cy Young.
No.
Right? Wasn't that? Or am I thinking of somebody else?
To me, dude.
One of the Boston pitchers, they won Cy Young, and they've just been trash ever since.
That's all of the Boston pitchers. Rick Porcello, that is. Definitely Rick Porcello
there we go, yes.
Who you're talking about. In my opinion, Clay Buchholz has been pretty much sucky since 2013. I have not really liked the guy. I think he had one decent season to the tune of an ERA of like 1.7. His ERA was under 2 that one year. Everybody loved that year. I didn't really find it all that great when every other year his ERA sucks. So he never was healthy, and I began to form my opinion of him years ago. And so when he did come back, right, to pitch, and he pitched in Philly and Arizona in the last couple seasons, but Arizona mostly, and he pitched excellent. He pitched excellent with Arizona. He had a 2.01 ERA, and he pitched 98 innings. So, I mean, at that point, I have to say to myself, how can you be knocking on stats? Because that's just reality, and you need to just accept the fact that Clay Buchholz, after 98 innings, has a 2.01 ERA, and he is fantasy rosterable. Well, okay, fine. Now, in 2019, he's pitched 24 innings. He's got a 6.57 ERA, and pretty much to me, he's back to where he was when we started, and I convinced myself that I don't know what to do.
Got something from Kevin again.
Yes, tell me.
There's a tweet about Keller that he will not go over 100 pitches per start rest of the season, and he may be on an innings limit as well. He's already at 164 this season, and he's 24 years old. So
very good point. Kevin always comes up with nuggets, dude, that other people have not come up with. This is a great show, Aloha Fantasy Baseball, with tons of nuggets that you don't hear on every single show that you've ever listened to and could possibly already know in your sleep. I know it's hard to find new things all the time, and so I'm not knocking other people because it's to find tidbits like that he comes up with or Lenny comes up with. It takes lots of You know someone's paying attention when they got that many tidbits, right?
Exactly. Well, and see, I don't know if Malpal is still out there, but you want to
He
start
has
going through the
tidbits.
streaming pitching.
Yes, of course.
So tomorrow, you got Gio against the Cardinals, Alex Young against the Giants, and Homer Bailey against the Royals.
Okay, I'm not taking anybody against the Cardinals, dude. That's my first one.
Well,
And then,
basically, I went after these guys who are less than 50% owned. And the
okay.
reason why I did that with the Cardinals is Wainwright is the opposite pitcher.
Okay, I still don't. That's just my personal opinion. The first thing I hear when I hear somebody pitching against the Cardinals, I say absolutely not, because they're hitting really good right now. But go ahead. I want to hear the rest of what. Who was the second one?
See, that's the thing is that a lot of it has to do with the strength of the schedule for them, and I'm telling you right now, a lot of them they actually the Cardinals were some of the better options to try to stream against this week.
Well, I don't know in whose opinion, but not mine. But that's okay. Talk about Homer Bailey. I like him too. He's going against who?
The Royals.
Oh,
the team he just came from.
Yay! Okay, so that should be good. I like that one. Is he pitching at home in Oakland?
I didn't put where he was pitching.
I hope
mean,
he
either
does.
way, it's a good pitching park.
Okay, great. I love
I would
it.
actually rather see him do it in the Royals. With the way
Either
he's
way,
pitched for Oakland so far, I don't know
he's
what
pitched
his
good for them.
splits are.
Yes, Homer Bailey has been good. I'm going to check it out, though, because I think it's important with him. He was pitching.
And the other one I really like is still Alex Young, just because of the fact he's pitched so well. The problem is I'm pretty sure he's a rookie.
Okay, I don't.
Yes, he is, because he only has so many, like probably 5 or 6 starts this year, but he's pitched very well so far across them.
Okay, I'll give you that for sure.
But he is going against Tyler Beatty, so that's another kind of a favorable matchup
yeah, that's
for him.
A positive.
For who the Giants are throwing out there.
Yes, that's a good positive. This one, Homer Bailey. Now, I wish I knew what he has done since he has been at Oakland and home and away, but I could tell you probably by his game log. But I will say that I can't even use the home away stats. That doesn't even fit for this guy because he's been in Oakland for 5 starts now. So his ERA, but it is. Anyway, I like Homer Bailey. I love that I hope he's pitching at home, but I'd probably go with it even if he is pitching away. So who's the next on the list?
Well, that covers Tuesday on it.
Okay, and
Monday.
then Wednesday. All right, what's up Tuesday?
Tuesday, then we've got Adrian Hauser once again against the Cardinals, which that one.
Oh, hell no!
Yeah,
no,
one it's a little bit harder to go off of, but the same thing if you're going in DFS, he's going against Michaelis, who's been very, very iffy this year. So
he's going against the offense. He's going against the St. Louis offense, which I'm deathly afraid of.
But the reason why I say that is if he even pitches a quality start, he can come away with the win and everything because Michaelis could blow up for 7 runs.
Okay, but all right, go ahead. I would already say that I'm not going to trust anybody going against St. Louis, and a rookie especially. But move on.
I'm
yes,
having a hard time putting him in there.
Hauser, I like though. I think that overall, I hate that matchup, but I think that he could be somebody to put on your radar for sure and think about. Put him on.
You also have Adam Plutko going against the Tigers, who he's opposite Spencer Turnbull.
We love that one.
And then Mike Leake against the Giants, who is throwing out Derek Rodriguez.
Why does everybody hate on Derek Rodriguez so much? I don't know why. I feel like I got to look into this guy.
Like I said, I'm just putting out there who they're actually pitching for, or who the other team is putting out there.
What about Wednesday?
Wednesday, we've got D. Scalfini against the Marlins, which I'm sure everybody's going to love, and that's Hector Noesi pitching.
Especially if he's at the Marlins. Anybody at the Marlins.
And see, I didn't think about putting that when I was putting that down there. That was
problem.
Definitely, yeah.
That's a good matchup.
You got Tanner Roark against the Royals.
Okay, we talked about.
Jacob Junis is going out there.
I kind of like him too, a little, but go on.
Yeah, well, it's still not a bad option to try to stream. And if you're trying to catch with pitching or you're playing daily or fantasy on DraftKings or something, these aren't bad options to go with.
Junis is okay pitcher. Yeah, I think he's okay. He gives he's been okay. Recently, he's come out of my mouth a couple times, so I don't. Either one of those pitchers would be okay.
Left.
Yeah,
we got one left for this. Aaron Savali against the Tigers with Daniel Norris going out there.
Love it. Okay.
Okay, so Thursday we only had two. Denilson Lamet against the Giants, who Samardzija is going to be getting thrown out there. And then Alex Wood against the Marlins and Jordan Yamamoto, who Yamamoto has been getting beaten up for the most part across the last couple of his starts. So Alex Wood is
again.
Definitely What's
Wood.
that?
We're going to talk about Wood again. This is why Wood came up in conversation to begin with, though, I bet.
Yeah, but he's got a very good matchup on Thursday, so
okay.
I'd have a hard time passing on him. And
well,
you figure a lot of these guys, they're going to get passed on in DFS, they're going to get passed on in daily ad leagues. So,
why is he? Okay, remember this: that the first two pitches, every single 70% of the batters that he faces, he throws the first two pitches for strikes. Does that mean? And there's lots of freaking problems with this, by the way, and I still think that there's just holes all over this, and it makes no sense to me why he has a 6.07 ERA. It says to me a lot of things. One of them is, how in the world do batters not, obviously they do know that he's throwing it over the plate every single time they go out there. Bauer has been like throwing every first couple pitches, he's been throwing balls like immediately. It's like he intends to go out there and just throw the batter off immediately, and it's not working for him. But regardless of that, I'm just saying, you kind of know. Doesn't he know that he's throwing the ball over the plate every time?
If not him, you would think the pitching coach would sit him down and go, hey, I get it. It's a very good idea to have a first pitch strike, but you have a ridiculously high percentage, and smarter hitter.
Has nobody told this guy, dude?
Saying go attack.
Nobody's told this guy that he's throwing the ball over the plate every single time. Oh, I mean, like the first couple, it's not one of those pitchers. The coach would never be like, wait for a called strike. It would be like, go out there and just start swinging as soon as the guy lets go of the ball. Just start swinging.
Exactly.
Because it's going over the plate. And the fact that he does that is just intriguing to me, and you just kind of wonder how to look at that. But I do like the matchup, and then we can move on to the next day.
All right, so Friday we've got your favorite. You know who I'm about to bring up?
I have no idea.
Anibal Sanchez.
Okay, good. He's a reliable guy.
Once again, against the Marlins.
Okay, great.
I mean, it's definitely a start you want to go with.
It doesn't get much better than that.
And now this is a goofy one because I've got both pitchers from the same game.
Okay,
John
fine.
Means against the Royals and Eric Skoglund against the Orioles.
That matchup. It would seem to people that it would be so, like, don't you feel that you target pitchers that play against Miami? You target pitchers that play against Baltimore, but I don't know, after what they did to Tampa, they proved again that they can hit. Toronto's get scary with their youngsters on that team hitting good.
And see, I'm actually more preferential towards taking Skoglund in this, just because John Means hasn't been pitching that well across his last couple of starts.
Does he go only like 4 innings too? He doesn't.
Well, because he's a rookie, so they don't want to let him go out there too long.
Yeah, well, forget him and pay attention to what Aloha said about the limits on these youngster pitchers.
Especially since we're getting late in the season. Now you're not going to see somebody that young going out there for 6-7 innings. Most likely they're going to get pulled after 4 or 5.
I totally agree. And we'll talk about the next day now. Do we have another day?
Yes, Saturday, and I have a lot of them for Saturday here.
Okay, so we're going to have to break this down.
You're gonna
we
hate
already
this
talked
one,
about. Oh, yes, it's Joe Ross. Oh,
yes,
Lordy.
But he's going against the Marlins, so it's hard to go against that.
Well, lucky for most people listening to this podcast, Joe Ross is already owned in most leagues because he was the most added player last week, and I couldn't believe my eyes, and that's what the whole Joe Ross thing started on. So I would say that it's safe to say...
Well, is he going to be the most dropped player this week?
I don't think so, no, because people are trying to defend him all over.
I didn't see what his starts looked like this week, so...
Yeah, well, I guess we'll have to find out. But right now, he is sitting atop the most added list, but not, the last couple weeks he was. He's owned.
All right. So
I don't play him. I do play him against Miami, of course.
Yeah, this one I'm a little bit worried about because of what Kevin said earlier. You got Brad Keller going against the Orioles, and it's Dylan Bundy who's going out there.
But think about it, dude. If he throws 100 pitches, it's not really limiting him to like 4. He should be able to get through 5 innings with 100 pitches.
Well, he said there might be an innings limit on him as well.
Did he first say that he was only going to pitch 100, throw 100 pitches per start? Is that what he said?
It was some tweet that came out This is what Kevin put. So
Okay.
Keller
I don't
will
see
not
that
go
as
over
an innings
100
limit.
pitches per start rest of season and maybe on an innings limit as well.
Well, to me, it's either they're doing it, they're counting pitches, or I guess it could be a combination of counting pitches and innings. But really, what it comes down to is
Whatever you hit first, basically,
it's the
is what that could
throwing.
come
Yeah.
down to.
How many pitches did he throw? 100 pitches? Well, if he's not through 5 innings after that, then he needs to get going anyway, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
so
and that's very true. All right, so then we have Martin Perez against
yes,
the Tigers, which
we
they're
love.
putting out Edwin Jackson.
Yep, we like it. We talked about it.
Eric Lauer against the Giants, who are putting out a rookie, Logan Webb, who I
Okay, but
actually have out there as well because the Padres have not been hitting.
the Padres took a nosedive. They absolutely took a
Uh,
nosedive.
Basically, since Tatis got hurt.
Fran Mill, to me, I know Malpal is listening. Hopefully he'll be listening to this because this is kind of really how I feel about the Padres. I loved the Padres and what they were doing, and I did not like the fact that they traded Fran Mill. Of course, I love it from Cleveland's point of view. What Fran Mill is not doing right now is hitting, and I think that, in my opinion, because he was known as a clubhouse guy in San Diego, he was a team favorite, he was a fan favorite. I thought Malpal wasn't a big fan. He's big. He lives down there, so... Anyway, what I think is
Fran
that
Mill,
he's...
From Kevin, Fran Mill just tied the game in the
Yay,
ninth.
Fran Mill! Go
Well,
Fran
and that's
Mill.
kind of funny because they flipped to it. I have MLB Network on it. To start out the inning, they were up 8-4, and Lindor hit a solo shot to make it 8-5. So that means they put up another 3 runs in the ninth inning.
It makes me happy not just because of this day, but this day's performance is going to change the atmosphere for him in how he feels about being in Cleveland, because I do think that once he gets used to it, he will like it there. It's a great place to play baseball for sure. And I'm so happy to see that he's hitting, because now, from now on, every day. I still pick him in daily even though he stinks, so maybe you shouldn't listen to me. I don't do it every day, but maybe on the days that I'm not picking Chris Davis, I'm picking Fran Mill. I always have one jokester that isn't hitting shit, but can hit totally. So I'm playing him every day. His price on DFS right now is going to be so sky low or floor low, until even if he starts hitting, he's good to go with a low cost for a little while until they start adjusting the cost.
No,
I think he'll hit.
This is the one that actually scares me. It's the last one on the list, and it's just because it was a favorable matchup. Even though the Royals are starting to hit hot, you have Dylan Bundy going against the Royals with Brad Keller. I would rather take Keller if I'm going that route.
Absolutely, because...
But it's still a pretty favorable matchup for him, because I don't know if Bundy is still pitching that well this year. I haven't really been following him because I wasn't interested in him even when he was pitching well. But it's, if you're going to tell me in DFS I got to pick one of those two, I'm not even going to think about it, and I'm going Keller.
Brad Keller, I think that it makes it even more relevant what Kevin said about the innings limit and the 100 pitches, because he does have 2 starts this week, and there's no doubt that that's going to be the number one thing that the management is looking at, because they're not going to make the playoffs. They want to keep their youngster healthy. But if he's allowed 100 pitches, to me, that's the greatest news that you could possibly hear as a Brad Keller owner, because he doesn't need more than 100 pitches anyway. He's not Trevor Bauer, for crying out loud.
Exactly. He can get through at least probably 6 innings with 100 pitches. So
that's
I'd be
it
okay
for me.
with that.
That's all I got. That's all I have for this podcast, and I think I'll break it down into like 4 small shows. What do you think? Should I break it down into 4 small shows?
You could do that. That'll work. Probably get more listens out of it that way.
Oh, well then I should definitely do it. How about, well, I want to be, I do think that it's good to break the stuff down, because there's a website or an app, I'm not really sure, I was just informed about it, but it's called Clipcast. It's Clipcast, and you go there and you type in a player's name into this, it's either an app or at the website, I'm not really sure which. You would have to do some investigating, but what it does is you type in the player's name and it comes up with all these different clips from different podcasts, and it's just clips that they have for that player. So you get to hear about that one player from as many different sources as you want, and you don't have to listen to like the entire podcast of everybody. You actually jump right to what you want to know. I think that's a great quality, because when you have 15 fucking leagues like me, it becomes just, it's too much. too much.
Yeah, well, I have it pulled up right now, and for some reason I'm just seeing videos. So, oh,
Maybe.
there we go. Searchable podcast
Oh,
targeted
you're looking at it
clips.
now. Good. Good. Okay. So type in a player. Let's type in a player's name. How about if we type in Brad Keller and see what we get?
That's actually who I was about to type in
I
too.
don't
That's
know
fun.
if it's taken off yet. I think that it's something that could really take off with all the podcasts out there now. That you should.
It
I would
seems like their
love.
website is pretty slow because I'm just getting the spinning circle.
Okay. Well, it's. I think the idea is a great idea. That what it does is it breaks it down transcript. It does a transcript of everything that you say in your show. I'm sure it's a computerized transcript, so you would have to be try to speak really clear. But if you could I think it's an excellent idea. I would love as a fan.
Okay, so it just loaded. So
Yes.
like the first one it pulls up is Fantasy Front Office.
Okay.
And wow, they have a long show because it's showing for their episode between 82 minutes and 53 seconds to 84 minutes and 13 seconds. They're talking
Okay.
about Brad Keller.
What?
Same
Oh.
thing. It's giving you the clip and telling you when it happens in their show. So I'm seeing
Okay,
one
but
for
it's giving you
55
a
to
clip.
57.
It's got a whole window of an hour, over an hour, where the clip is supposed to be. Because that's not right. That can't be right.
Well, no. It's telling you the time frame for it. So
when is it? When is the
so
time frame?
basically, for that first show, they start talking about it at 82 minutes and 53 seconds, and it ends at 84 minutes and 13 seconds.
Okay, so there
there's
you go.
that little minute and a half span
And
where
that
they're
works.
talking about it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's showing it to me right now. You might have to sign up for it, though.
You
to
do.
get
You
your
have
stuff
to
on
pay.
there.
You have to pay $3 an episode to put your stuff on there. So how long is that one episode? That's the question. Maybe we could, if we wanted
How
to.
big is it? They're showing it. I mean, I'm seeing at least 84 minutes long for their episode there.
So if you think about, okay, each episode is $3. If I wanted to submit an episode, it would cost me $3. But if the episode could be, 200 minutes or something, then that would be much better than if it was only like 30-minute or an hour-long show. And to me, it says right there that it's at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half.
Well, not all of these guys are. I mean, I'm seeing the one right next to it is 55:31 to 57:14.
What's the total length of the entire show?
They are not telling me, it looks like. They're just telling me when it starts.
Okay, but
They're talking about when they're talking about the player starting.
I gotcha. Well, scroll down the page and see how many.
That's
like
what I'm
the
trying
biggest
to do,
one.
and nothing on here shows me how long their episode is. It's showing me when they talk about Brad Keller since I typed him in.
I think that the idea, dude, would be something that I will look into for this because I could even. I mean, it would be a lot of work to go through and put those timestamps on each.
Well, it looks like they give you a transcript because that's what I'm seeing is they're actually. So this one, I think it was third start of the year. This was and then it stops, and then that was the Brad Keller Tim Anderson game. So it's giving me a transcript of it too. So it looks like they actually have like a computer listening to it and scanning for it.
I'm going to look into it. I think that having a program that could do a transcript of every podcast would be it would be I don't know if it's a service that you would have to use, like if you would have to pay per episode. I don't know how the pay system would work, but if there's an app that you could like pay for that would automatically create the transcript and have timestamps in that transcript, I think that would gain so many listeners. I really do.
I agree. This is actually something that's pretty nice because rather than having to listen to a whole show for a little bit, you're trying to find it.
Absolutely.
It just finds you in the show.
And it keeps the host on target because the host, if you know that this transcript is going to take place, then you will focus on talking about specific players and specific situations, and it will keep you being informative to me. I think it's a good way to keep hosts on track. I don't know. I'll have to look into it more.
Well, I'm texting you the link for it.
What, Clipcast?
Yes.
No, I already looked at Clipcast. I was very impressed by the idea. I didn't actually take the time to look up players and stuff like what you did, and I didn't analyze all of that. I just knew of the service, and I knew that it's either an app or a browser. It must obviously it's in the browser. You just found it.
It's pretty nice because there's filters on it when you're searching. Only search podcasts with the tags sports, fantasy football, football dynasty, daily fantasy football.
But you wouldn't even look for those there. That would just be defeating the entire point of it. You would type in players' names.
Especially because it only came up with like 8 tags on it for the podcast.
Or maybe you could type in waiver wire pickups or something. Maybe that would be a good idea. Or I need a second baseman.
But I mean, it's at least nice.
Absolutely. The idea is, I think, for somebody that is trying to put together a network of shows that people want to listen to from that perspective, and also from a fan perspective where, like, I play fantasy, and so I would love it if I could not have to listen to the entire podcast of people talking about shit I don't care about and just get right to the point.
I completely agree. Also, Kevin said this was a great Sunday surprise.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you for being here, Kevin.
Me too. For me too. It was a great Sunday surprise, and I don't know why we didn't think of this sooner, because that was just stupid to be doing our show on Monday nights. And especially, there's nobody on Sundays, and Monday night is cram-packed, everybody has shows on Monday night.
Everybody wants to do Monday, yeah. I mean, this works out a lot better.
Totally. Good idea, dude, that guy. You come up with some great shit.
Yeah, all the time, nonstop. I can't help it.
Okay, dude, have a good one. I think we're done here.
All right, you too.